What's up, guys? Let's do some Axis and Allies 1940 global strategy. Okay, so to start off, we're going to go with the Germans since they go first. They are going to have to lead the game. Whatever they do, everybody has to adjust to it. The Allies, as much as they need to push their own strategies, they have to react to whatever the Germans and Italians do. So let's talk about setup. So on setup, as you can see, I have a lot of my units spread out, and this is intentional. I often give my units some places to face the enemy so that it looks like, where I'm pointing them, so it looks like there's some intention here to where they're going. If you do this, it allows you to kind of trick your enemy sometimes. If you look at the Russian side of this, how they're all spread out, it looks like you have a ton of guys. If you consolidate them down to just say like one and a couple pieces underneath it, the gray pieces like this, it doesn't look as big. So you can kind of trick your enemy just by looking bigger when you want to look bigger to deter them from attacking. And then if you want to trick your enemy into thinking you're not attacking, you can consolidate down and look like you're smaller. It's an old art of war trick. It goes something like this. It's like if you're strong, appear weak, and if you are weak, appear strong. Right? So you want to look puffed up if you don't want them to attack you, and then you want to look small if you're going to attack, so the enemy doesn't think that you are attacking. So that's just a general guide there for setting up. As far as strategy, another strategy, which this board is very put together to start with. All the lines are right up against each other, and everything's going pretty much where you think it's going to go. But to give you an example of another tactic or strategy for setting up, like I have my guy here in Africa here, I have him looking away from the Italians towards this battle in hopes that that's like invisible to him, so he won't think to attack from Ethiopia. So that's one thing you can do. Conversely, if I turn around and face Ethiopia, then I'm being antagonizing, and so he's going to catch that with his eye. So if you can catch your enemy's eye in the ways that you want, you can kind of distract them a little bit and get them to attack you or not attack you based on how you position your pieces to start. So that's just one way to do it. Of course, some places have restrictions as far as they're too small, so you can't really do anything as far as eye movement, tricking your opponent. But other places you can kind of spread out. So, all right, so that's the setting up the game. Some of the things you can do. You can do that with fleets. Starting out, they're small, so you can't really do anything. But particularly like if you're playing the Pacific version, and you have a lot of ships, instead of stacking them up, using chips to stack them up, you can spread them out, use multiple aircraft carriers, multiple battleships, and then that way you look big, and the enemy does. If you don't want the enemy to attack you, and if you're about to attack the enemy, consider consolidating all the way down, and then it looks like you have a smaller force than maybe they're thinking of, right? And then you can surprise them with an attack. You'd be amazed at how often your enemy just kind of looks at the board and kind of just based on his observations, just kind of thinks based on the strategy without counting. They just look at it and go, "Oh, that looks kind of like a big fleet," or "That doesn't look like a big fleet." Ultimately, your better players are going to count more often, and they're going to pay more attention to the units. But at the same time, any little advantage you can give yourself is a smart move, and that's one way that I do it. Like all these guys are facing here, it looks like they're going to attack there. Say like Italy, they're facing southern France, so it makes it look like I'm going to attack there. I could turn around and attack there instead. But there's not a lot of those at the start that's a good misdirection play, except maybe like these tanks here, looking that way. Whenever I really use them in France, so that's a misdirection play there, with based on how they face. A lot of people just set them up in the middle of the territories without a real direction to them. But you want to give your enemy some eye candy. Okay, so that's one thing that I really like to do. All right, we'll move on to Germany's grand strategy here. Okay, so the Germans, obviously, they either need to destroy England in Operation Sea Lion, or they need to take Moscow as quick as possible. So I've seen the strategy before where the Germans attack on the first turn. I don't like that. The more and more I've tried to game that out, you start with only like 3 infantry here, 4 infantry spread out across 2 places there, and yes, you can destroy some of the Russian infantry early, but you're exchanging, 1-to-1 or something less than that. You're diverting a lot of your air power when you need it for these battles over here early, um, and you're starting the Russian bonuses. Gets them where they can attack early and get good income with bonuses down there. They can attack up here and take these 2 territories. Particularly if they take this away from you, it gets rid of one of your 5 bonuses. So, I don't like attacking Russia on the first turn. Usually I wait till the 4th turn, until the very end, when I have to attack them, and I feel like I'm ready to go. So I'll give you my 2 main strategies. Strategy number 1 is to put a major industrial complex in Romania that allows me to put 10 units every turn and take southern Russia. If I'm going after Russia, that's one of my main plans here. I've got a lot of good income here. If you get to the Caucasus, you get a bonus. If you get Stalingrad, you get a bonus. So those are some good income, and it really hurts the Russians early on if they lose this income. So, so that's my main plan, or that's one of my main plans. My other one is Operation Sea Lion. So Operation Sea Lion is very tricky. If you do normal progression where you build ships every turn and you're just slowly building up, the British will do the same. They'll build ships, they'll build fighters, they'll build everything they need to do to defend against Operation Sea Lion. So you don't want to tip your hand early. In fact, even with this strategy down here with the industrial complex, I don't tip my hand early either. On the first turn, I save my entire income. I don't buy anything. And then on my second turn, if I'll usually save my income as well, unless I'll buy some units once I take Paris, to kind of go this way and that way, if I need them, depending on how this battle goes. But yeah, I'll save first turn, second turn. If I'm building a fleet, I'll save the income as well. And then, you have 10 industrial capability here and here, so you can put up to 20 ships into the waters here, all at the same time. And if you do it all at the same time, and the British have spent their income on other things, then they only have about 29 IPC, probably less considering what goes on in Africa, to respond in one turn, and you're spending something like 60 to 90 IPC on ships. So they really kind of, it catches them by surprise if you do it that way. It hides your movements too, and it allows you to be flexible. So like, if Sea Lion doesn't look wise, based on what the British do, you can go ahead and switch and take that income and dump it in Romania. And so it gives you that flexibility to be like, well, if I can't do Sea Lion, if I'm adding it all up on paper and I can't do Sea Lion, I'll just dump it here and move into Russia. So the other thing that I really like about Sea Lion option as opposed to the Romanian option is that you can build your ships and act like you're going to do Sea Lion, which causes England to spend all of their income here, right? Building ships, building planes, building troops to defend, right? And then you can attack Stalingrad. And that's a big move because you can really catch the enemy off guard if they're thinking you're doing Sea Lion, and they've built their defenses up. Say they've either moved troops up here or moved back to the smarter line of defense here, right? Then you can smash into here, destroy a major army usually, because they're trying to protect this northern area here. And you don't have to do all Stalingrad. If they're spread out, you can land spread out. If you have like 4 or 5 transports, you can send one here, 3 here, or however you need to split it up. You can just destroy everything along this coast, everything. And you can invade from Norway too. So if you're transporting troops up to Norway, you can do an all-out attack on the north. And once you do that, and you have all your transports sitting here, it's basically a one step to get your troops to Leningrad. Like normally you would have to spawn in Germany and go 1, 2, 3, right? But if you have your transports here, you spawn in Germany, you move your transports, pick up, move them back, drop off. One turn, one move, straight to Leningrad. So that is my favorite, because it diverts everything. It causes your enemy to respond in ways that they basically, if it looks like you're going to invade and they've bought like 15 ground units or whatever to defend, and you don't attack and they have no transports, they're sitting there unable to do anything. They just basically have to start building transports to try to maybe attack into France or something. So you're really causing them to eat up their resources, and you're catching the Russians off guard. So that's my favorite strategy. Romania is easy and simple. There's not a lot to it. You spawn, you put infantry first, and then artillery, and then that would be about the 4th turn by the time because you don't want to show your hand that first turn. So about the 4th turn. And then you attack with infantry artillery, 20 units, plus whatever you bring up. And then you build mech, right, and tanks. And then those move up, right, because then you attack Ukraine or up here, depending on where they've moved their army at. And then those can blitz up. Then you buy mech and tanks again, and they're moving up with you, moving down into here. And then, and you've got it all right there, because, you buy infantry, you buy artillery back here, you've got to march it 1, 2, 1, 2, 3 to get over here. You can build infantry down here, 1, 2, right, and then you can follow them up. Your tanks are the same way. It really gives you, like, you're really set when you do that. So that's a good general guide to start with the Germans, but let's do some specific. So I'm going to fast forward a little bit. We're going to do some battles that are kind of your set pieces, which means you do them every time you play. The set pieces are: you attack France. There are some mistakes you can make there in attacking France, particularly if you don't send enough power units, like your fighters and your tanks, right? When you attack there, you could take 2 heavy casualties. And then also, when you attack there, you need to attack with your mech. Because once you take it with your mech and you take the other 2, you want to quickly turn back around and head to Russia. Okay? So the mech can do that. The infantry, if you went 1, 2, then they're stuck down there forever, because they gotta go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way back. Whereas the mech can just go 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay, so that's a set piece. The Wolf Pack out here is a set piece. You're gonna attack the British Navy in various ways. You're gonna use air power to do that as well. And then, but the main thing is get France right. Once that's in place, what pieces you want to attack with, then the others you can just kind of, based on what you have left, attack with. So, all right, I'm going to move everything around to the first turn here for the Germans. Turn 1. Okay, so I went ahead and moved things around for the attack phase. Like I said, the main thing is to get France home. This is overwhelming odds on the French. I will roll that here in a second and tell you what that battle outcome is. The fleets, again, attack how you want. You can attack some of these. Just remember, they can scramble if you attack here or here, and they have 3 fighters. So that's something to calculate. Here they can scramble to 1 from Scotland, but that should pretty much get you to where you're trying to go. Also attacked here. Gonna do kind of the slingshot while trying to, I'm not trying to take it, sometimes I do, trying to destroy 4 units and leave it for the Italians to take. Since they don't have a lot of units, it kind of makes it easier for them to both take some territories, get some income over here, and take troops down to Egypt, which is critical for them. So, alright, so I rolled that out. Did almost exactly what I wanted. Got everything except for the fighter on the first roll. Usually I want to wipe that all out on the first roll. That way they can't just keep hitting you with roll after roll. They got 4 hits back on the first roll. And then after taking the fighter out on the second round, I lost 1 mech. Or actually, you don't want to take it back. 1 artillery, right? Because the mech can move, right? And so you want to take them and move back with them once everything's done. So I went ahead and rolled everything out, did my non-combat moves, landed everything, destroyed them there, lost all my ships though. I lost here horribly, lost both subs and didn't hit anything. It happens sometimes. Another important thing is mobilize Finland every time. First turn, mobilize Finland. Whenever you attack France, one of the fighters needs to go down here to Italy, southern Italy. That way it can scramble and defend these fleets. So it's very important. I know I said I keep all of the first turn's income, but I just realized I didn't want to leave this open or keep some of this infantry kept back, which is supposed to be that much. So I did buy 4 infantry. Why? Because the important thing is the Germans to remember is that the the British like to have a little transport or 2, and then they just come over here, 1, 2, 3, land, take your income. So you gotta have something to defend Berlin. So it's important. Okay, next we'll do the Russians' turn. They can attack, obviously, so I'll show you some of their strategic movements. I've already started here with 1, moving everything into Leningrad to defend, and I'll show you the rest. Alright, so I just did the Russian turn. I pulled back to the second line of defense, which is where you want to be. You don't want to be up close to be easily destroyed, right? You want to make the enemy march towards you and commit to where, if he's going south or north. So this is a really good strategy I like to use. Particularly if there's more towards Romania, I'll take the troops out of Leningrad and put them here, because then if they attack, I can quickly swing down to here, which is this is your most important place as the Russians. This place right here, because you can swing north, you can swing south. It's very hard to defend the Russians because they have such a wide open front here. But so like if there was a build-up in Romania, I'd have my troops pushed here. If they attack that first little spot, I can quickly move these guys down and move these guys back to where if they attack there, I can have a counterattack. Okay, so that's the Russian strategy to hold the south. The north, really, it's kind of hard for them to attack right now. They only have 1 tank here. If they had more tanks, then you want to start doing what's called proxies, or buffers. I've heard called buffer zones before, which is put 1 guy there, mainly to keep them from blitzing up to there. Particularly if the Germans have transports, you're going to want to do that. But right now, we're not very afraid of them. We don't really think that they're going to attack. And even if they attack, what are they going to do? Blitz 1 tank against you? It's nothing to worry about right now. Might as well keep that soldier back and defend with them. I bought mainly artillery for these places. I do have these guys sitting here. Depending on house rules, usually we let the Russian player go ahead and invade the Middle East, even though that's against the regular rule book, just so that they can get more income. And particularly because I don't like the rule, because there was a war fought here in Finland, and so sometimes when I'm playing, a player will sit back, and attacking Finland is historically true. That did happen. There was a war there, so that's why we let the Russians attack, and it gives them something to do other than just sit there for 4 turns. But there's their move. That's what they look like. That's usually what I like to do. This line of defense, it's a lot more easy to defend like that, particularly these two places, and backed up by this very important place that allows you to swing north, swing south. I bought a couple infantry back here. Right now it doesn't matter because it's early, but usually anything I put back here is either mech, tanks, planes. So as we get further into it, I'll show you more about it. But that's the general strategy: is to sit back, use this territory to see where they're coming at, and swing north or south to defend or fight. You don't want to get caught too far south when the enemy's up here. You can't get back to Moscow in time. Same thing with Leningrad. You don't want to get too lost up here, right? Leningrad's not as important as keeping Moscow. So you gotta keep within this pocket is where you're gonna fight. So, all right. So that's the Russians. So next we are going to do, who's next on the list? The Americans? Yeah, I think it's the Americans. All right, I did the Americans' turn real quick. Some transports, a destroyer, a couple infantry. The main thing that they're going to try to do over the next 4 turns is to build up a fleet, build up a landing craft. Pretty unmatched for the Germans right now. And their main place of operation is Sea Zone 91, where there's a harbor. Because from Sea Zone 91, you can go 1, 2, 3, attack Italy. You can attack South France. You can even go 1, 2, 3, and attack Germany. Attack Belgium. Attack Normandy. So that's your center for location. When you're moving down, 1, 2, 3, you can get down there in one move. Some people stay up here, which limits you to only operating in the north. Some people go ahead and go 1, 2, 3, go here or here, which again limits you to only operating in the north. So there's really no other reason, unless the enemy holds that and you want to take it back, which I've yet to play a game in which the enemy has taken Gibraltar. But always move your ships here, and then from there distribute to the world. So, alright, that's the Americans' plan. Now let's move to the British. Okay, so as you can see, we're on the other side of the board now. For the British, their main attack is to this territory right here, the Italian fleet. Okay, even with those 3 built up, you have to attack the Italians. They have 3 transports, and if you don't start limiting these by attacking both of these right here on the first turn, then they will take Egypt, overwhelm you, take Africa, and that is the best way that the Axis wins the game, because the Italians will have enough income from all of this that even with the Americans coming over with everything they've got, the Italians will be able to hold out against them. Right now they start off with only 10 income, and then of course they're going to take a lot of the little places around here. But Africa is where it's at. Potentially for this game, it's where the war is won. You can't fully say that, because if the Germans quickly take Moscow, obviously they can turn around, have a consolidated front, and take on the rest of the Allies. But this, very important. So let's see what we got here. I brought a bomber from England and a fighter, believe it or not, from England, because we're going to attack with the aircraft carrier, and that fighter has 5 movements from the airbase. So it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lands on the aircraft carrier if it survives. So everything else from this sea zone is going to attack there. Okay. Then Malta also going to join in. 1, 2. You can get back to Malta. And then this cruiser, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, and then land on Malta. Okay. Those are your 2 attacks. Everything else is not combat, so I'll roll that out. Alright, so I rolled that out. British lost all of this. And, of course, everything for the Italians was wiped out. With only these 2 remaining for the British. It's bloody and it doesn't always work, but it's imperative. Every time I've played, that's critical to take out that transport, take out those ships. I mean, some people retreat with their fleet, but then once you do that and the Italians take Egypt, what are you going to do? You know? Then you've pretty much lost Africa. You've lost this battle over here, which is, to me, it's income-wise, it's the biggest pivotal battle in the game, is the fight for Egypt. So it was a success, even though we lost a lot. And then I rolled this as well, lost the cruiser, and then destroyed that. So that's another transport, because for every transport you take away, that's 2 units they can't bring into the battle in North Africa per turn. So, and then fighter lands back on Malta. These have to land on Malta. Okay. This transport you're going to want to hide, that's for sure. You can bring up, put it there. Bring up that destroyer, bring these guys back. This guy up. I usually march north with that guy. More non-combat, but I'll try to do it quick here. Move the fleet back. Move these guys up. And take these guys with them. Now you have 2 transports up here, which, as the British, are pretty dangerous with 2 transports. But again, as the Germans, we're planning on doing that naval strategy. So destroying the fleet, the British fleet early, although is nice, and the more of them you can destroy, you are planning on putting a massive fleet up there. So just remember that. And the British right now, since you didn't build ships that last turn, they're focused on Egypt. So we're going to place think up here just because fighter in South Africa, because next turn he can go up to Egypt, because the Italians will be moving forward next turn, or on their turn. And most importantly, for the British, we're buying minor industrial complex for Egypt. That way, whenever they move forward and then land troops, we can spawn 3 straight into there. It's another critical thing to keep Egypt. Keeping Egypt is very pivotal, very important. As the Italians, taking Egypt is very important. That's their main objective. Okay, so that was the British. I guess that takes us to the Italians' turn. Okay, so this is the Italians' turn. They landed troops with their 1 transport. So, I mean, if they had 2 or 3, they could have landed a lot more here to attack. So right now the balance of powers switched to the British. They're likely to defend, particularly next turn they'll be able to spawn 3 and bring their air power back, bring this fighter up. The Italians have no air power except for they're purchasing 1 with their 10 income from this turn. That did take southern France, and they mobilized over here in Bulgaria. So that gives them some income, 40% more. So, as of right now, it doesn't look like they're going to easily take Egypt, but they're going to keep trying at that. They have 4 turns before the Americans land in Morocco. So, alright, so that's the Italians. Place their fighter there. And then it's the French turn, which the French can't really do a whole lot. Going to move their fleet back, consolidate it down here. Gives them a good stretch there. Leave the fighter alone. Bring people up into Algeria. And I'll move this guy around. Maybe he'll help in Egypt at some point. Okay, so that is the first round for everybody. So let's go into the second round in part 2.